Hey guys, it's Dr. Kresimir. It's Wednesday, November the 14th. The reason that I know that it was yesterday, it was Tuesday the 13th of November, which is and was my 39th birthday. If you're tuning in for the first time, my goal is to qualify for the CrossFit Games by the time that I'm 55. But more importantly, it's to leave a legacy for my two boys, Ari and Vedran, for them to know me, know my thoughts, see themselves, know their grandparents, and to know what life was like when they were little and what their parents were like when they were little. I like this episode. There is a great story coming up of, well, my dad being classic, and also my dad sharing it was Remembrance Day, November the 11th, and my dad shares a wonderful story that his grandfather shared with him from World War I, where he served. It was a story around Christmas time, and it was, my dad's a great storyteller. It was told really well. Training's been great. I think the most important thing that I can share with you on this episode was, I think it's natural to get reflective around your birthday. You know, you take inventory of where you are and what you've done and where you want to go and how things are going, and I live a blessed life. I'm very happy. But definitely, looking back over the last year, the most impactful thing that I've done that's been the most helpful, and hopefully where you can find some value from listening to this, is I read a book called Letting Go by David Hawkins. I'm almost positive, I have a memory like Swiss cheese, I'm almost positive I mentioned it before. You know, this idea of letting go. First of all, if you know me personally and you read or you read this book, you're going to be shocked that, number one, that I read it, and number two, that I got any value from it, which is, you know, I'm always comfortable like everybody else in their biases. It was wonderful. The central idea of letting go, you know, this idea of letting go of the negative emotions that we experience throughout the day has been just amazingly impactful. I used to confuse this idea of letting go, I used to confuse it with letting go of everything and just kind of floating from one thing to the other, and that hasn't been true at all. Letting go of the negative emotions is far from letting go from your dreams and your visions and your goals. If anything, it's become a much more pleasant and happier experience to pursue those things without, you know, feeling like crap if something doesn't go your way, or when the next roadblock comes up, you know, you don't beat yourself up for not getting it done. It's been incredible. I recommend it. Read. It's called Letting Go, and it's by David Hawkins. And by far over the last year, reading it and most importantly, applying it, because another thing that I've been busy doing over the last 2 years is I've never consumed less information. I've been more interested in applying it, and that's also been very valuable. So I'll leave you with that. Have a great week. Enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. Training's been great. Couple PRs, which has been really nice, and as always, big gaps to keep improving on. So have a great week. I'll talk to you next time. So
about what?
It's getting a little bit heated in here. And the man over here wanted to share a story about Remembrance Day, so I thought I would put it on camera. So tell your story. What happened?
Well, the story may be a little bit longer, but
that's okay. Nobody cares about length.
My great-grandfather was drafted in the Austrian army in 1914 because Croatia was part of Austrian monarchy, and he was sent to fight on the Eastern Front against Russians. So it was 1916. Christmas was coming. And he said that the Russian command and Austrian command agree on a ceasefire between Austrian, which was Catholic, Christmas Eve, 24 December, and Russian Orthodox New Year's Day on 8th of January. And they honored that agreement. So he said on Christmas Eve, 24th of January, that they were entrenched against Russians. Russians were about 700 yards across no man's land. There were Russian trenches versus Austrian trenches.
Sorry, 800 yards?
800 yards, about 800 yards.
About a kilometer.
Yards.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yards.
So over, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
that was not far from each other.
Okay.
And he said on a Christmas Eve, it get dark early, they set up the campfires, their trenches, and Croatians started to sing their traditional Croatian Christmas songs. And among them, there were lots of people from Herzegovina, which was known for what's called shkia, like a homegrown tobacco. And they were smoking that tobacco and singing the songs. And as the weather was calm, the sound of them singing went over to Russian side. And as well, the light breeze was taking the smell of the tobacco over to Russian side. Russian could pick up few words and said, these are not Austrians, they could be some of our tribes.
Slavic, right?
Yeah, Slavic, yeah. And they yell across the no man's land, Bratko, baš duana. Hey, comrade, you have some tobacco? Because the Russians obviously didn't have any.
Right.
So two brave, probably crazy souls crawled through the night on a Christmas Eve.
Through no man's land.
Through no man's land, over to Russian side with the 2 little bags of tobacco and came back with the 2 big bottles of vodka. So the satisfaction was completed. They could drink vodka and smoke tobacco. On a New Year's Day of 1917, he said it was relatively warm and sunny, and they somehow got out of trenches, both Russians and Austrians, and within half an hour they were playing a soccer in that no man's land. And interestingly, the commanding officers on either side didn't complain about anything. And that ceasefire lasted until 8th of January, at which time they put the helmets on their head, loaded their guns, and started to continue to kill each other. So much about irony of the war.
What's going on? We're back. A little bit grumpy. It's all good. We got this fine feast that we are super grateful for. And there's the man and the myth right there. And today we're going to talk about, because it's November the 11th, and I think it's a very important holiday, which is Remembrance Day. What do you think?
I think today is Remembrance Day. We should bow our head and remember everybody who fought and fell for the freedom that we enjoy today in every free country in the world. Thank you, guys.
Respect. What was your opinion of Canada when you were still in Croatia? Like before there was ever the dream to come to Canada, what did you think?
My first exposure to Canada was imported apples when I was about 6 years old. There were 2 types of apples. One was Mutsu that we didn't know anything about. We called them Canada. And another was, I think it was a delicious, golden delicious, which we called a golden delicious. So that was my first exposure to Canada. Those Canada apples was absolutely delicious. That was my first exposure. That general impression, far away land, and the misconception was it's extremely cold and full of snow, which didn't prove to be true.
It's cold and full of snow. Thank you. Happy Remembrance Day to all of our fallen and the people who are defending our country right now. Have a wonderful day with your family.
Ha ha ha.